and welcome to the Candidates Forum presented by the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. My name is Carrie Moon Dupree, and I am the president of the Northwest Wayne County League. Tonight, we welcome the candidates running for Canton Township Supervisor. We thank the township for allowing us to use this facility for this public education event. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate running for any office. The League does take positions on issues after careful study, so you may see our name attached to an issue that we are advocating for or opposing. Membership in the League is open to all citizens who are at least 16 years old. So if you are interested in joining this public service organization, please let us know. Membership applications are available on our website, lwvnorthwestwayne.org. The League's main mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government. One of the ways we do that is by having forums such as this one tonight. The League has also prepared a nonpartisan voter guide, which can be found online at www.vote411.org, which is now up and live. By typing in your voting address, you can view the races on your ballot and the candidates' responses to questions posed by the League. You can also find the link to the voter guide on our website. The print voter guide will be available the first week in October at the Canton Public Library. If you need our web address, they're on the free bookmarks, which are available on the table right over there. If you would like to ask a question of the candidates, and we certainly encourage this, please write your question on a card and hand it to one of the ushers in the aisle. You can raise your hand and they'll collect it. Questions were solicited from the public prior to this forum. Our moderator will ask as many questions as time allows. Questions should be brief, to the point, and should not include personal attacks on the candidates. We reserve the right to screen the questions for duplication and clarity. At this time, we ask all our audience members to please be sure their cell phones are silenced. We also remind audience members that no public display of approval or disapproval is allowed. Each candidate has agreed to the League's rules of participation. Each candidate will be asked the same question in rotating order. Election Day is November 5th. If you are not registered to vote, you can do so up through Election Day. Within 14 days of the election, registration must be done at the office of your township clerk. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., but all registered voters can vote early by absentee ballot. Remember that you first must fill out and return an absentee ballot application to your township clerk before a ballot can be mailed to you, unless you're already on the permanent absentee list. If you need an absentee application, contact the township clerk office. Early voting will begin October 21st and run through November 3rd. Early voting is at the Summit at the Park and the Village Arts Factory. The polls are open from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., except polls are open late at the Summit on October 21st and November 1st through 3rd till 7 p.m. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters. I'd like to introduce you now to our moderator, Alicia Mazurek, co-president of the League of Women Voters Dearborn Heights League, and she will provide you with more details about tonight's forum. Alicia?
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening. My name is Alicia Mazurek, and I am the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights. Both candidates running for the Canton Township Supervisor position have been invited to participate in tonight's forum. They are running for a 4-year term. Candidates chose a number from a sack when they came into the auditorium, which has determined their placement on stage. As Carrie said, our questions tonight are coming from you, the audience, and we also have received questions emailed to us in advance. Each candidate in the Canton Township Supervisor Forum will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement, a 2-minute response to each question, and a 2-minute closing statement. We will rotate the order of the candidate who responds first. League member James Moon Dupree will be our timekeeper tonight, and he is sitting here in the second row. He will be holding up cards so the candidates know when their time is up. The candidate must stop when the stop sign appears. And now we'll get started with the forum. We'll begin with opening statements, and we'll be starting with Anne Marie.
Okay, we need more chairs, are some more in the closet, and the building monitor can get them for us just to let you know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anne Marie, please introduce yourself and give your opening statement.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I'm a 30-year Canton resident and current Township Supervisor. I hold a BS in Engineering from Boston University and an MBA from Lawrence Tech. All 4 of my children graduated from the Plymouth Canton schools. Prior to being elected supervisor in 2020, I was a trustee, planning commissioner, and an engineer and project manager at Ford, Chrysler, and other 3 suppliers. I'm the current chair of the 35th District Court Authority, which is the funding unit for our court. I'm the vice chair of the Western Township Utilities Authority, which manages wastewater for us. I'm the vice chair of SEMCOG, representing 4.8 million residents, and I am the treasurer of the Conference of Western Wayne. My position in these organizations give a powerful voice to Canton across southeastern Michigan. 4 years ago, I ran for Township Supervisor to restore strength, accountability, transparency, and integrity to the office of the supervisor. I was elected by Canton voters to bring positive change to the community, and that's what I've done. I'm asking Canton voters to re-elect me as Township Supervisor due to my record of results and vision for the future. Since 2021, we brought a record $37.7 million in tax dollars back to Canton. The most that Canton has ever brought back previously was $5 million by Phil LaJoy. $37.7 million is almost our yearly fund balance. These dollars have fixed 40 miles of road, including Canton Center and other roads affected by ASR, repaired and filled 20,000 feet of sidewalk gaps, energized Cherry Hill Village by supporting the Village Arts Factory campus and building the town square.
About a minute ago, plus.
No, it was 2, we have 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. You raised the,
We have 2 minutes.
my apologies.
Okay.
I apologize. I do. He raised it and I thought we were done. I was
There's
giving,
a stop sign when it's stopped.
okay.
Okay, they'll let me know,
Okay,
please.
and I will take more time now if you need it for my rude interruption, sorry.
These dollars have fixed 40 miles of roads, including Canton Center Road and other roads affected by ASR, repaired and filled 20,000 feet of sidewalk gaps, energized Cherry Hill Village by supporting the Arts Factory, and this has led to more private sector investment of the town square. We have over 100 projects that answer to slow the filling of our landfill, increasing our canopy, modernizing and fixing our facilities. These investments keep our community safe, beautiful, and a regional destination for businesses and families throughout Michigan. I'm running for re-election to continue the work we've done, and we've started together to make Canton better now and our residents' futures.
Very good.
Pat, your opening statement?
Yes, thank you. First thing I would like to do is share with the audience is many of the things that she stated that she has accomplished that I personally have shared with her. There's 70-80% of the things that she's done are amazing. And some of the things are very similar to what I have done. But that being said, now let me introduce myself. As former supervisor, I would like to return Canton Township to being a common sense driven community. My wife Nancy and I are 40-year residents. Today I'm a realtor. My education, not much unlike hers. I have an associate's in metallurgy, a bachelor's of business administration, and a Lawrence Tech master's degree. Our children also attended Plymouth Canton Community Schools. My passion for Canton continues through my ongoing involvement in the community-based organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce, my HOA. I also support several Canton charities, including Canton Cares Fund, which I personally founded several years back. Many of the projects she's discussed, whoever's the next supervisor, it will be their responsibility to carry that on and complete it. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening.
Thank you. We'll begin with the questions. Our first question will be for Anne Marie. That's correct. What background do you have that prepares you to deal with the multiplicity of township functions and issues?
As an engineer for several years and project manager, I've managed hundreds of projects, hundreds of programs. As supervisor, I have done the same. I have a project meeting every 3 weeks where we go over 100 projects and all of the details with it. Previous to that, I also worked with the community, the various cultures. So the biggest thing here is the residents. We have to make sure that the residents are number one. That means providing facilities that'll take care of the residents. That means providing programming that will take care of the residents. And number one, of course, is public safety that takes care of the residents. I've had that experience in the last 4 years, and obviously my 20 years plus, 30 years, I'm sorry, as a program manager. I think that when you look at what we have in this community, we're the 9th largest community in Michigan, and it's important to listen to what the residents have. What happens in these 4 walls happens in these 4 walls to take care of the residents outside. My priority is the residents, and I think that my experience for 20 plus years, plus my 4 years here, has accomplished that and sets me up to continue. Thank you.
Yeah, same question?
Thank you. You just hit on exactly why I'm running for office. The last several months, I've had several residents and local business owners approach me and share with me their frustration with the current township government. Basically, they don't feel that their voices are being heard and represented in the day-to-day business of the operation. It appears that the current group leads with political favors, working with their allies. Canton has an ever-increasing expenditure, hiring, as well as new policies that are walking away from the desires of Canton Township. I will assist in the future, if elected, personally, myself, the local business owners and residents navigate our community. I'll give you one real easy example. During COVID period, when Canton Township shut down, I didn't have 3 people representing me for questions from residents, from business owners, or other constituent groups. I had my personal cell phone. Every call that went to the Township Supervisor's office was routed during COVID to my personal cell phone. In terms of the faith community, if you look at who my donors and supporters are, which is all public information, there's not a single faith community or folks from the business community of each of the faith groups that has reached out to me and asked for me to get involved again. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll start with Pat. Both candidates have sat in the supervisor's chair. Please highlight the best decision you have made for the community and one you wish you could modify.
The roads, when that first became an issue, the roads millage, which was a $30 million a year it raises, $3 million, I'm sorry, 3. It's a significant amount of dollars, and at first I saw it as a tool to hang a carrot for Wayne County to come and do their jobs. Most people know in our community, Wayne County owns the majority of our roads. It is their responsibility to maintain them. They have done a very lousy job of that. So therefore, we have this carrot through the roads funding that continues to incentivize them to come do work in our community. Also, I did a great deal of work to meet often with with our county exec, Warren Evans, personally. I sat with him every 2 months to tell him what our needs are. I think the current group has done a good job in terms of bringing in funding from external sources at the federal, state, and county level, and a lot of that's going into roads. So that's something else that they've done well that I would want to continue on.
Same question for Amber.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on the previous question. Basically, after COVID, I brought back everybody to work. They needed to work. I've had several employees thank me for that because they were worried about where their next checks were going to go. Our employees need to work. Our employees work for the residents, and I make sure of that. When you come to the 3rd floor, if I'm not there, we have a new position for resident advocate, and she makes sure you're taken care of. What we've done by exponentially increasing the commitments to our community is we have, as I said, 37.7 million more reasons. We have exponentially increased the services to the residents. We have exponentially increased public safety to the residents. I don't work with bad actors. I know the previous supervisor has been fully funded by somebody who is a bad actor in our community, and he's been calling our police asking why we aren't giving them Yost Road. So Yost Road is a road in Canton Township. And so that just goes to show you, we can't look at people and how much money they give us and make sure that we give them what they want. We have a bad actor who has broken many laws in this community for many years and sued us for many years. So what I would modify, I'll go back to this, what I would modify in this community is basically getting to things, I think, that we got off to a slower start. I think we've done the last 3 years $37.7 million worth of projects, and I think if we would have probably started sooner, we could have gotten even more done. And I look forward to some of these projects that we're working on. We're halfway between them, and again, this is for the residents, and I think we'll continue to service the residents that way. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Anne Marie. Canton has... No,
Okay,
each
thank you.
candidate just gets a response to the question.
Very
So,
good, thank
yeah,
you.
so we'll move on to the next question. Canton has had rapid expansion in the last decade. Homes currently being built towards the west are at a higher price point than homes in the rest of Canton. What will you do to make it feasible for moderate income family housing to be built in Canton? And what will you do to make sure the older sections of Canton are not forgotten?
That's for me? I'm sorry.
We're beginning with you, this
Okay.
question, yes.
Yeah, so basically, when I was an engineer at Visteon and they let thousands of us go, a couple of us engineers got together and we formed a group and we created a Habitat for Humanity model, which basically is a lower middle income housing unit for people, and it worked with geothermal and wind, and they basically would have no bills if they were to build it this way. We have a lot of township land that's been donated or people have walked away from over the years. So we're looking for a place where we can do this, where we can have moderate income and have buildings like Habitat for Humanity. You are right, Canton has been very successful. We have, it's a wonderful diversity of housing. We have mobile homes, we have smaller homes in the older communities where I live, and then we have huge homes. So we have a diversity of housing, but I am looking for more affordable housing. You're right, we have to give something for our people to live in, our younger people especially, and so Habitat for Humanity is one partnership I'm looking to form.
Thank you. Pat?
When you compare the 2020 budget to the 2024 budget, my budget, last budget, her budget today, they've increased the number of Canton Township employees by 31. They've increased Canton's expenditures by $17.5 million. The growth in Canton Township through all the new development that has occurred has poured dollars into the coffers of Canton Township. Additionally, I also happen to be a school board member for a charter school. All the schools, all the municipalities got millions of dollars in COVID funds, and for those communities who already had good financial status, they didn't need that cash. So that poured into Canton. Again, more funds to expand. One of the concerns that I do have is the changes in the addition, is it sustainable? Because when the dollars go away from COVID and other sources, what are you going to do with the 31 employees other than raise taxes? Thank you.
This question will begin with Pat. Are you concerned that the Canton Township budget is growing too fast?
I just answered yes, thank you. And I think there's opportunity to sit down with the employees and untangle the basic services of local government from what feels to me, and according to some employees, is social engineering that's happening within the walls of Canton Township. Canton Township government should be delivering clean, drinkable water. The sewer, the roads, there's basic services that local government has a responsibility to provide. I think we've gotten into many areas that we don't belong at any level. Thank you.
Anne Marie, same question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Certainly. Are you concerned that the Canton Township budget is growing too fast?
The Canton Township budget, actually, when I came on board, there was an $11 million surplus in the budget, which was not being spent on residents. It was sitting there. And that is a problem. When you pay your tax money, you want it to work for you, and I made sure that it does. I work within the budget. We have not raised taxes, and all the changes that we have made, we are doing within the budget. That has not changed. As money comes in, we make sure it goes towards the residents. Again, some of the things that I talked about are not just from grants. We're talking about expanding the summit. So we had capital that that was sitting there for years and not being spent. The tiles in the summit were falling off. Our HVAC units were inefficient and costing the residents more money. Our roads, well, you can see we're finally fixing the administration roads. This surplus was sitting there while our capital facilities were falling apart. And I am making sure that that $11 million surplus, things like that, we don't sit in a surplus. We're not a bank. We're not an investment company. We work for the residents, and I'm going to make sure the money works for the residents, and I don't go over the budget. And if we have something, we're very transparent, called priority-based budgeting. It's actually online, where you can see every single department and where every single expenditure has happened. We added that transparency because when you looked at the budget before, it's hard to tell. But look at priority-based budgeting and you can tell where every single penny goes, and that's important. And I will make sure that we stay within our budget, and it is sustainable. We make sure of that.
Our next question will begin with Anne Marie. What are your plans to provide or keep green space in Canton?
Well, one thing we do, we just are completing a master plan advisory board, and whenever a development comes in, it's not just say, yeah, go ahead. What we do is we have a checklist, and part of that checklist is to make sure that there's green buffers around the properties. We make sure that there's water retention, which we make sure that, of course, the infrastructure is there. We just got 27 acres of land donated to us, which is now a nature area. We also have a nature area in Warren and Sheldon, and ZB West Park, which was slated to become this big, another softball center. We made sure that that's natural area. So that is important to us. Our master plan also increases green space, and that is an insurance of what we are going to do moving into the future.
Same question.
Everything you just described was how the township operated with new developments in the past and will continue in the future. In terms of the green space, the facility, the acreage at Ridge and Ford, that was given to the Canton Township to fill the joy through the Singh development, the Grewal family, and that was slated to become a softball center because we surveyed the community, and that's what they told us they wanted. I didn't see a new survey go out to say, hey, do you no longer want the softball facility that you told us you wanted? Also, the property up on Michigan Avenue, which is the acreage by the Riverwalk section, that was a conversation that began with myself through Anthony Noble and his father-in-law, who's developing the apartments up on Michigan Avenue. So they finished what I began. I'm trying to think what other parcels, similar conversation. There's currently a gentleman, I'm going back to the prior question, that I'm discussing possible development of affordable housing up on Michigan Avenue. He's at the very beginning stages, and I'm working with him as a realtor, and maybe Anne Marie or myself will help him bring in some low-income housing in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start this one with Pat. What are your core values?
Thank you. Wow, it's an easy one. My faith, my family, my education. From those things, I work hard. And the harder I work, I produce, and it puts me in a position to be able to help those who can't help themselves. Those are my core values.
Thank you. Anne Marie, same question.
Well, definitely, I think empathy for others. I think that's something that's important to me. Communicating with people, listening to others, listening to residents. In terms of my job, my core values are making sure that people live a safe, healthy life in our township and know that when anything changes, everybody is taken into account. In my job, the residents are number one, and those are my core values for my job right now.
Thank you. We'll start this one with Anne Marie. Is the Ford Road Medium project still happening? And are you in favor of it or not, and why?
The Ford Road project is run by the state of Michigan. They pushed it off to 2028 because right now in certain areas they have to negotiate the width of the road. And they've approached landowners to purchase that land, and some of them have sued. And when that happens, it has to go to the Attorney General's office. The township is not allowed to get in between those negotiations. It's part of what's happening, so I can't even sit down and talk to the landowners about that. So that's the state of that right now. They're estimating 2028, 2029, and when that starts, DTE and the utilities will take a year to do their work, and basically then the rest of the road construction starts, just like the lights and the median being put in. I am in favor of it. I recently wrote a letter to the executive director of MDOT expressing my dismay at the delay of the project, because by doing that, what happens is that I'm concerned about the safety, obviously. So what he did I asked for the pedestrian walkways to be beefed up. If you go to Ford and Haggerty, Ford and Sheldon, Ford and Lilly, Ford and Canton Center, you're going to see hash marks now for pedestrian crossings. When you press the buttons, the lights will delay more. It will give people longer time to walk across, especially at Ford and Sheldon, where we have the Canton One Place. And the senior citizens go across with their walkers and their wheelchairs, so we made sure that happened. We are also looking at we're trying to put out safety messages through SEMCOG, and they did a lot of safety messages, so we're going to, we put that on Facebook more, and we're going to make sure that we do more safety training for that. But I do think it's important, and I see it coming to fruition at some point. I just stay out of the negotiations.
Yeah.
The entire reason the state of Michigan is doing the boulevard was because of push by myself and others before me due to the number of accidents at Haggerty and Ford Road, Lilly and Ford Road, and all primarily caused by left-hand turns. So again, the state, she's correct with everything she said, and pedestrian safety, absolutely, 110%. However, you could achieve exactly the same thing for tens of millions of dollars less if you just made no left-hand turns on Ford Road, the entire section. So you could do something for, I don't know, in the state's dollars, it should be a couple million, but truly probably 20, 30 million. Make no left-hand turns on Ford Road, you solve the problem. Or you can spend hundreds of millions, that's where they're headed. So do I support a solution to reduce the number of accidents, serious accidents on Ford and Lilly and Ford and Haggerty? Absolutely. At 275 as well? Yes. Is this the smartest one? No. Thank you.
Thank you. This one, Pat, we'll take your answer first. The Canton pilot composting study has been in effect going on 2 years now. Do you believe the pilot has been successful, and do you support expanding it community-wide?
Well, I know it exists up in Cherry Hill Village. That's the area where it is. I know I have neighbors who compost, but that's not a big issue for me one way or the other. That's a personal choice. And if the community wants it, then yeah, it should be expanded.
Thank you. Anne-Marie?
I just want to say something else. On Ford Road, we did propose no left turns on Ford Road. MDOT did consider it, as they do run the road.
For the forum, we have each candidate gives their answer. We're not responding. I know Pat had asked to have a response, and we said no, so I'm going to ask you to answer the question here about the composting.
Okay, I will do the same. And the composting program is community-wide. We have over 600 residents doing it right now. It started out with 300 residents. It's a very popular program. Composting is important because the landfill in Canton Township is 3/4 full. I took a ride up there, and there's just 1/4 left. When you look down, you can see that there are boxes everywhere, so we are encouraging recycling. Composting, moving it elsewhere, also reduces that filling, and it also makes sure that what happens is that we take it elsewhere and they turn it into fertilizer and they bring it back to the residents. But we've already diverted 160,000 pounds of food from there. We are starting to partner with the schools. If you ever go to the schools, you can see the kids throwing everything in the garbage. We're partnering with the schools to also move that. Also, food composting also produces more methane, which produces more pollution into the air. So by processing it in a facility where this owns this company is doing this, we are actually saving the residents more methane, and also we are saving the filling of our landfill. Because if we fill that landfill, it's going to cost the residents a lot more money to truck our trash elsewhere.
Thank you. We'll begin this one with Anne-Marie. And this may be going into a little bit more detail than a question that I asked earlier, but this comes from the audience. Name three major accomplishments your administration has made during your term in office as supervisor.
Well, we brought $37.7 million in tax money back to Canton, Michigan, working with our state, county, and federal legislatures. That's a record. That is a major accomplishment, and there's more to come. We fixed Canton Center Road, which hadn't been done in a long time. The county did it a couple times, and we fixed Canton Center Road. Oh man, there's so many. I'm sorry, I have the list of 25, the three major ones. We're fixing Capitol, and we're also putting in safety nets for mental health. We put an embedded social worker into our police station, which she has about 400 cases right now, which shows, as we're seeing across the nation, some mental health issues, which that takes that off the back of our public safety department. And so that I think that she's great. We have families calling all the time, and she goes out to some of the sites.
Thank you. Pat?
So I'd say roads, millage, paving of Ridge Road. There's a lot of the things that she has going in terms of economic development. Amazon was under my term that they came in. There's talk about Top Golf coming in. I went with Kristen Thomas out to Las Vegas and actually talked Top Golf coming to Canton. They chose Auburn Hills first, we were second, so that's a conversation I started, she's finishing up. The green space, the property. There's other things that I began that she's completing. Just like if whoever sits in this chair next, they're gonna finish what the prior supervisor had started. So there's a lot of things, I'd rather look forward than backward.
Thank you. The next one, we'll start with you, Pat, and we're going to go back to Ford Road here. In regards to the master plan, what do you see for the future of the Ford Road corridor?
Well, retail is not what it used to be. Those facilities maybe could be turned into low-income housing, apartments. I don't know. They've got some huge retail space there that is dying on the vine. Also, when it comes to economic development, my background is business. I created and grew the largest commercial induction heat treating shop in North America. I understand business, I understand economic development, and I think what government's job is to encourage investment and help those who want to make investments in our community any way we can. Thank you.
Anne Marie?
Say the question.
Yes, certainly. In regards to the master plan, what do you see for the future of the Ford Road corridor?
Ford Road corridor is retail. During COVID, Wayne County did a study. They hired a consultant, they did a study, and they looked at several of the corridors in southeastern Michigan and Wayne County during that time. Our Ford Road corridor was still profitable at that time. When somebody moves out, we have 3 or 4 people that want to move in. It is not stagnating. If economic development were important, why, when I came into this office, was our economic development manager only part-time communications? I made it a priority to create a full-time economic development manager, and he has been studying, along with the DDA, how to look into the future of Ford Road corridor. We're looking at, basically, I have people calling me every day saying, please tell me when there's an opening on Ford Road, because I'm going to go there. So Ford Road, I think, is going to stay a retail corridor for a long time, and it is very successful doing that. And economic development is important to me, shown by the full-time manager that I now have. We also have a strategy, which we did a study session on. So that includes the Ford Road corridor.
Our next question will begin with Anne Marie. Township board meetings are packed with multiple agendas and no time for citizens to be a part of it. What can you do to include citizens' input during the board meetings?
So board meetings are business of the people. We have people come in all day long. People email us, people call us, people come before the meeting and speak to us, people come after. We also have public comments on agenda items, so we can get the input of the public in terms of the questions. We're the only community. During COVID, we had Zoom running meetings. Do you realize that Canton is the only community that still has Zoom meetings for our public meetings? That's so people at home can do public comment. I have people that I will do public comment in the room, and then I look online and people will do public comment that way. At the end of the meeting, the same thing. So we read public comments that people send them in. So we do public comments, and many other communities around the area are doing the same, although they don't do the Zoom calls anymore. But I think I need to keep that transparency there so people can call us from home and be a part of this.
I believe wherever the residents and business owners are, we need to meet them where they are at so they can communicate with us. That's it.
Thank you. For this one, we'll start with Pat. Currently, there is no lighting ordinance for private residences. What can a neighborhood do when a home is excessively lit and impacts surrounding homes? And there's a second question, would you consider a lighting ordinance for private residences?
Actually, I think it exists. I'm pretty sure it exists today, just like the noise ordinances. So I would reach out to the supervisor's office or her representatives and ask that question directly.
Anne Marie?
I think it
Could you
exists.
say it again, please? Sorry.
Yes, currently, this was a question that was submitted from the public from email, so I'm not here to fact check the question, but they started by saying currently there is no lighting ordinance for private residences. What can a neighborhood do when a home is excessively lit and impacts surrounding homes? And the second question was, would you consider a lighting ordinance for private residences?
We do have a lighting ordinance. I know that some neighborhoods, I don't know if this is what the question is, some neighborhoods are darker than others, especially if you get more into the western part of Canton. We do also have a program where if a community or a neighborhood wants to put up lights, they can come in and with their group and we can have like an SAD and install it. It's very expensive to put up lights. A lot of neighborhoods are putting up, they do things like everybody leaves their porch on at night, or they'll put in solar lights. So that's a little bit less expensive than wiring lighting. But you can, if the neighborhood's too dark, come in and we can talk to your neighborhood about installing lights and what that means. But we do have an ordinance. I know sometimes when a new store comes in, they might put in brighter lights and we'll have a neighbor complain and we go out and we measure the light. We have a little meter that does that and we can have some screens put over the lights if that's what the issue is. I'm not quite sure with that question.
Hopefully both of your answers will be helpful to the person who submitted that question. So for this next one, we'll start with Anne Marie. What new strategic planning will you implement during your time in office?
Well, we have a number of strategic plans. We have strategic plans for roads. We have a broadband strategic plan we're creating. We have strategic plans for economic development. We're almost complete with the communication strategic plans. We have sub-strategic plans. In terms of an overall one, we have a board meeting every year where we look at our goals and we establish strategic plans from that, and then the sub-strategic plans meet up to that. So right now we have a welcoming community, healthy ecosystem, quality infrastructure, financial stability. So those are currently our larger overarching goals, and those can be found online also.
Pat?
Same answer. It begins at when the new group comes in, they get elected. There's a strategic planning session where all the leadership throughout the Canton Township government attend with the elected leaders, and they start mapping it out. And then to her point, it breaks down into separate department areas and continues on.
Okay, well, Ford Road is popular. We have another Ford Road question. We'll start this one with Pat. What are your plans for protecting small business on Ford Road during the 2 to 3 year planned construction for the project?
I began that with property at Lilly and Ford Road. There was a gentleman who had a little strip mall there next to Aldi groceries, and he had a wall that there was no way, once we began Ford Road, people would be able to access those businesses and Aldi. So it was a 2-year long negotiation with the guy individually and with his family. He tore down that wall, which is a beautiful thing, that provides access. And that's got to be done along the entire corridor so businesses can continue to function during the construction period on both sides. It can be programmed around, engineered around.
Anne Marie?
So basically, what we did when Canton Center was under construction, because there was the same worry. I mean, it's obviously not as big as Ford Road, but Canton Center is a well-traveled road. There's about 35,000 to 45,000 vehicles that go there every day when you consider work traffic and buses and school kids. So what we did is we met with I went up and down the street with our MSD people. We met with every business. We gave them a schedule. That's very important to understand the schedule. As Pat said, we want to make sure there's alternative routes to the businesses. We want to keep businesses open. We don't want to hurt their business. We actually even relaxed the sign ordinances where we let them put their flags out on the street to say, hey, we're open. They put flags on their buildings. So we did everything we could to make sure people knew that business was open, and we actually guided people there. Obviously, when the construction started, there were still some questions, so we were able to change that and we worked right on the spot. That was really important. The MSD team, they made sure they got there right away. When I got a call and said, hey, they said their thing is blocked. If they had to work on a driveway and close that driveway, they made sure that traffic could route around it. So I expect the same with Ford Road. We want to make sure that it's being done section by section. There will be a solid timetable, and we will work closely with the businesses.
Thank you. We'll start this one for Anne Marie. Do you envision a public-private partnership that would further your vision of leadership?
We have one going on right now, actually. Cherry Hill Village, which is Canton's downtown at Cherry Hill Village. We utilized ARPA funds that we had received in Canton Township, and then we got a match from Wayne County. Melissa Daub, our commissioner, helped us with that. We are getting calls like crazy to do economic development in Cherry Hill Village, and some of that is what we're looking at right now, where we're going to establish restaurants. We're going to establish transportation, because as you know, in Cherry Hill Village there's a parking issue, so how do we get people there without having to park cars there? We're establishing public-private partnerships with restaurants and more stores, so we are working on that right now. That's really important. You have to do this. The government can't do it alone. We can be the inspiration in getting things started, but we need public-private partnerships to have any vision come to fruition.
Okay, Canton does today, and has for many years, done an excellent job in terms of economic development. While I was the past supervisor, I've already mentioned, Amazon on Michigan Avenue, Topgolf potential coming, and many win-wins that we've had with developers to maintain or expand green space. Canton Township is unique in terms of its proximity to 250,000 shoppers, the multiple modes of transit that we have, airport. We've got Michigan Avenue 2, which is going to be a regional development area with, I think, at some point, we're talking with SEMCOG and others, of having a train track go through on Michigan Avenue. So Canton Township is a place where people want to be. Canton Township government is not the economic developing machine. It is the private investors and it's private industry that puts the dollars in. We can be supportive and helpful to allow the investors to achieve their goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start this one with Pat. Do you feel our police and fire departments in Canton are competitive salary-wise with what other communities are offering?
Actually, it's something that I've thought about a lot in the last couple of years, and most recently with the loss of a friend in Canton. In terms of investment in public safety, that was the one department that got the lowest increase in the last 4 years. In terms of priority, public safety still remains number one. Could there and should there be a greater investment in public safety? Yes. I believe you brought up at a okay, focus here, sorry. The one officer on the street per 1,000 residents should be a minimum, absolute minimum. So in terms of priorities, there are dollars that have been spent in the last 4 years. I would guide them out of where they potentially should not belong and into public safety, absolutely.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And I'll just say, I'm just here to moderate, so please feel free to look at your fellow Canton citizens here. So don't, so
I'm passionate about some of the things you're asking.
So, Anne Marie?
Let's talk about public safety. Public safety. So when I came on, our public safety department was cut to the bone. The contract cut them to the bone. It's one thing to stand in your public safety and say how important it is when you go back to the negotiating table and you take away their benefits, you take the food off the table. That's what I walked into. When I walked into that, what happened is the residents were, they did not have what they needed. I watched our public safety being stolen by other communities. It went down to 78 people. We renegotiated that. We now have the #1 public safety contract in the state. We're back up to 98 police officers because of that renegotiation of that contract. I came into a defunded police station, defunded contract, and I made sure that changed. And that is why, if you looked at my Facebook today, the Police Officer Association of Michigan for the second time endorsed me. They endorsed me because I see the value of public safety, and I made sure that their families were important to us and made sure that public safety is #1. So we have the #1 state, and we have #1 contract in the state. Look at the endorsement.
Thank you. We'll stay on the subject of public safety here, and we'll start this one with you, Anne Marie. Many police interactions are really due to mental health issues. What is your recommendation for how our police should handle interactions with those in a mental health crisis?
Part of the opioid settlement funds that we have put towards a mental health clinician who resides in our police station. I've worked with Wayne, the Conference of Western Wayne, and we're putting them all across the different communities. Because, as you said, when people don't know who to call, they call the police. I mean, whether it's a bee or a strange animal or somebody's driving erratic or something, the police are always the last person that they think they can call if they can't find any other help. So this clinician, what she does is if a police officer goes to a home and there's a mental issue there, what they'll do is they'll stabilize the home, make sure it's safe. They refer the family to the clinician. They refer, have a lot of resources. Our clinicians making calls all the time. So you're right, mental health is really important, and we put that in there. We also have, when things happen, obviously, our police sometimes, our public safety, see the worst in people. I mean, how many people invite police over for dinner? They call them because something is wrong. So we make sure that they have people, they have peer groups here that can take care of them. So we've expanded that. We've brought in more assistance. But that clinician has helped a lot, and we're looking at even hiring a second one because of the caseload that she has.
Pat?
Okay, as I stated in one of the earlier conversations, all the various departments have grown dramatically faster in Canton Township, save for one, and that's the Public Safety Department. And to the point also, maybe that's another area to expand, because mental health issues have continued to become more significant issues throughout the nation as well as local. And maybe, I don't know how busy the individual is that you have now. Maybe we need a second one. I don't know. I won't know that until I'm in office.
We'll start this. Thank you. We'll start this one with Pat. What will you do to make Canton safe for all the different faiths and religions, and bring unity and tolerance and celebrate diversity?
So it's a good question, and the right answer is a simple one. All residents should feel comfortable and safe at all times, regardless of their backgrounds, their cultures. We're one community, and we should represent everyone in our community equally. Thank you.
Anne Marie?
So we've increased programming to a lot of our cultures. We have obviously the Ramadan. During Ramadan, we have our Independence Park. They come and they celebrate their prayers during Ramadan. We just had a large Punjabi festival. We put in a peace pole behind Heritage Park, which contains the top 13 languages spoken in Canton. The schools in Canton have about 66 different dialects. So we looked at the 2020 census and we picked the top 13 languages. And this past Saturday, we had an International Day of Peace. So the United Nations said that September 21st was International Day of Peace. So we had International Day of Peace, where we had all of these languages and cultures represented with peace, may peace prevail on earth. We also have coffee hours. We also have something called the Canton Coalition for Inclusive Communities, which I've expanded extensively by making sure that all the cultures are there, making sure nonprofits are invited so they can talk to each other, because sometimes our faith houses or our cultural areas are that's where the rubber hits the road, right? So we want to hear what's going on, and I make sure that happens. So we have about 45 people in that CCIC meeting. So that's some of the things that I'm doing, and I've been working, even before I was elected, I was working in the interfaith group. So I think that's one of the important parts and the beautiful parts of our community.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Anne Marie. Discuss your vision of a vibrant and successful approach to DEI. What would be your role in achieving this vibrant approach, and how would you evaluate it?
I think some of what I just spoke about in the last question response is part of that, the International Day of Peace. How we evaluate it is how comfortable people feel in the community. You want to keep hearing how people feel in the community. I just recently worked at the Chamber of Commerce, and we had a series where we brought in the different cultures, and the different cultures, we had like 3 cultures in each time. Actually, they sat right here, and they talked about how to sell to their community on their different holidays, whether it be Ramadan, Christmas, Kwanzaa. We talked about it, and it's on the Chamber's website right now. You want to teach the community how to work together. You want to always be open to that. If there's hot spots, which obviously there are, that come into our police station, that we make sure we take care of that. We hold meetings. I mean, communication is the #1 thing. And when you're looking at, we are continuing to grow. We're seeing a big influx of residents right now coming from Dearborn. So we're continuing to grow in various cultures, and it's important to make sure we keep talking to each other. And I will make sure that continues to happen through our groups.
Thank you. Pat?
As a realtor, every deal I've done in the past 2 years has been someone moving from Dearborn to Canton. Canton's a very popular area. In terms of DEI as a social movement, I oppose it personally. I do believe that every community, every individual faith group should feel comfortable in our community. And I do believe that there should be plenty of opportunity for individuals who normally don't spend time together to do that. So I think it's important, a part of our community, that everybody feel welcome and be involved and have opportunities to communicate with one another, absolutely.
Okay, our next question, we'll start with Pat. What makes you the best candidate?
Okay, wow, okay, that's one that actually been thought about a lot. It goes back to, I had no intention of running for office 9 months ago. I had several residents, several current employees of the township, several business owners who are fit to be tied with the current group, trying to get things done. The current group is injecting politics and everything in the day-to-day operations of our government. It doesn't belong within these walls. Canton Township should exist to provide the basic services of government. It's water and sewer. It's the roads. It's public safety. That's the priority, not the politics.
Thank you. Anne Marie?
So, contrary, several residents, businesses, and employees have asked me to stay in office because they've been able to do things that they've never been able to do before. Canton is headed in the right direction. Canton's Michigan's 9th largest community. We are leading southeastern Michigan into the future. The past 4 years, we've come through COVID, tornadoes, and flooding together, and now we're looking at pushing back on toxic waste coming from New York. Through it all, I've prioritized leadership through the crisis, and we make sure that businesses have the resources. Right now, we're working on our IT so that we can make sure, right now when businesses come or anybody comes from a permit, it's terrible, it really is. We've been working over the past 4 years, and we are now rolling in a new software that will help that, because before this, it was bubble gums. We're still working with the old system. So we went through the RFP, we had employees trained on it, we went through focus groups with the employees, and now we're going to be rolling that out. I've also prioritized propelling the township into the 21st century by harnessing technology. Right now, you can pay your bills online, you can pay your taxes online, you can pay your water bills online. You couldn't do that before. Cybersecurity is #1 for our residents. Municipalities are being attacked, especially government municipalities. So we made sure that that is not happening. When municipalities get attacked, they don't make it public. They don't make it public because they become targets. But our cybersecurity finds out right away and stops it. There are communities around us that have been ransomed. I won't make that public because I don't want to make them a target. But our cybersecurity has made sure that doesn't happen. That wasn't a protection before. Critical infrastructure, expanding green space, regional partnerships is how happening. I'm making a tech corridor between Detroit and Ann Arbor with 8 different communities. That's never happened before. We need to be in this together, and our neighbors are part of that.
Thank you. For the next question, we'll begin with Anne Marie. Are you happy with the overall direction of the township?
Yeah, I think I kind of answered that. Yes, I believe Canton is headed in the right direction. I'd like to see some things improve a little bit quicker, but I think we are headed in the right direction. Government moves slow sometimes, but even like the cybersecurity and the protection of our resident information has moved a little bit slower than I would have liked, but we are almost there. We basically sourced it and we're rolling out section by section. I think that our residents' information is important, our residents' health is important, and even public safety. I am so happy that we are almost at 100 officers, more officers than we have ever had before. And we've just renegotiated 5 union contracts. We're about to sign the last one because all of our employees in public safety were defunded, and I'm making sure that that is not the case moving into the future.
There are several good infrastructure projects that are underway that are good and need to be completed. In the areas of parks, roads, walkways, water, sewer, drainage needs for our region. Providing quality of life opportunities remains important to our community. What I'm, broken record here, my only goal is to pull the politics out of it. Keep all the good things that are happening, and get the politics out of the day-to-day.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Pat. Considering the environment and air quality, would you support forms of Independence Day celebrations that replace the use of fireworks? Was it Governor Snyder? That's a state mandated 72 hours around a holiday where fireworks are allowed. I like fireworks. My grandchildren love fireworks. No, I'm not going to do anything to work against fireworks in the near future. Thank you. Emery?
Could you say the question again, please?
Yes, considering the environment and air quality, would you support forms of Independence Day celebrations that replace the use of fireworks?
I can see a combination, I think, slowly moving into, if you've seen drone shows, they did, I think, one at one of the Super Bowls or something. They can be beautiful shows. So I think drone technology is accelerating so much that it will at one point be able to duplicate fireworks. So I can see us always looking towards the environment. And I know that a lot of people, if you have PTSD, veterans complain about it, or people with animals, they complain about it. So I think we should always look at diversifying what we do. And we could do a mixture of both, or eventually going towards maybe just drones. That's a possibility.
For our next question, we'll start with Anne Marie. What are your views of EVs, electronic vehicles?
So I worked on electric vehicles. I'm an electrical engineer. I worked on electric vehicles for years at Ford Motor Company and even Chrysler. I think I'm diversifying the fleet. Right now we have ICE engines, which are internal combustion engines run by gas. We also have hybrid vehicles, which are run by gas and battery. We also are moving towards some EVs. We purchased an EV just to test that out. We bought it for sale. I was actually able to save a lot more money over just a combustion engine. I think diversification is important, especially as we see our car companies trying to decide which way they're going to go. I think right now you're seeing car companies making all 3 investments: hybrid, gas, and even ethanol and electric vehicles, and it's important to stay there. We have been able to save money utilizing the hybrid and electric vehicles.
Pat?
This is a hot button issue for me. I personally drive a Ford F-150 hybrid with the 2400 watt generator on board. I love it. It's amazing. Now, when it comes to electric vehicles, I got a lot of different things to say, but one, if you talk to the engineering community, you talk to the retirement of Ford community, you talk to the dealers regarding electric vehicles, they say Ford is not ready. They're tripping over themselves repeatedly. Anne Marie, I'm sorry, let me rephrase this. Our current board bought an overpriced used electric vehicle for $46,000. It's something I FOIA'd when I heard about it. You can buy a brand new electric Maverick or Escape for $30,000. So she didn't save any money. She overspent on a used electric vehicle that should never have existed. The current retirees of Ford Motor Company, executive levels, they get 2 lease vehicles at a huge discount rate. They're being told, One of them must be an electric vehicle, whether you like it or not. Are they happy about it? Absolutely not. So electric vehicles are part of our future. Are we there today? Absolutely not. Hybrids are amazing. Go out and get one. Thank you.
Anne Marie? I apologize. I apologize. You already answered. Yeah.
I can answer again.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, no,
I can say,
thank you.
and I can say
Thank
even
you.
more than that.
My apologies. I'll start this one with Pat, because, so this question will go to you first. On your first day in office, what would you do?
Sit down with the directors in every functional area, understand where we truly stand in terms of finances, where every project is and its status, and then areas that they feel should probably not be a priority for Canton Township today. Now, if boards have made decisions to do expenditures, those are locked unless a future board reverses them. So number one priority is just understanding where everything is at. And I'm a numbers guy, so I'll start with the finances and work down from there.
Anne Marie?
Okay, I'm sorry, could you say it again?
On your first day in office, in the beginning of the new term, what would you do?
Well, I basically would continue what we're doing. I would, it would be a beginning of a new year, so we would sit down with the board and make sure that our priorities are the same, see if we want to tweak. We have tweaked every year a couple things, added some, taken back on some. I would do that. Then I would make sure that that flowed down to our directors and made sure our strategic plans aligned with that. We would continue our transparency of finances with project-based, priority-based budgeting, which anybody can look at and see. We would still be okay with that, making sure we stay within our budget, which we do, and create our 5-year plans. I think we also want to make sure that we, as we're doing, listen to our residents, do some more surveys. Our resident advocate, we're putting in something called Indigo, which is a cool software program where we can go out and we can do surveys online versus just doing it through the Focus. We can send out information to certain neighborhoods, and so I think I would like to do that, making sure that by surveying the residents, we can make sure that our goals align with that, and then continue from there.
Thank you. I'll start with Anne Marie this time. Pat, just to make sure you did answer that question, right? Now I'm concerned that I'm forgetting.
I think so. Yeah, I'm running on 7 different tracks up here, so just keep going.
So we'll start with Anne Marie on this one. What trend in the township are you most proud of?
Well, I think our increasing of programming and services to the residents, I think our public safety, the increase of more officers on the street that I put in the last 6 months from 78 to 98. I believe that wherever I go, people talk to me. I'm out and about. I don't just sit at my desk and play on the computer. I am out at DPW, at the summit. I'm at businesses. I go and look over our projects and make sure everything's going okay. Then I go to Lansing or I go to Detroit and make sure that we have a voice at the table. But I think that what we've accomplished in just the last 3 years with the funding explosion, I am most proud of that we have been able to bring that money back to Canton residents. There are a lot of communities out there that are very jealous about the money that we've been able to bring back. We've been very tenacious about that. And we can actually turn that around and make sure that it works for the residents. I think that's a trend that I like the most.
Pat?
The trend that my wife and I both love about our community is the diversity of our community. For example, a couple nights ago, we attended the Garba celebration at IGGF. We danced our hearts out. The food was amazing. So I think Canton Township, because of its diversity, is one of the most amazing communities in our region. And the fact that we are well-funded makes it a lot easier to run. Anybody can run it's easy to run a business when you're profitable. Canton Township's very well funded and a lot of good things going on.
I believe this one will start with Pat. What are your concerns about the fairness of the November election? What do you think can be done to minimize the disruption of those who attempt to create chaos by claiming that the election results are fraudulent regardless of evidence to the contrary?
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, never have been. Anne Marie beat me 4 years ago. I don't lose sleep over it. I think we do a pretty good job in Canton running a fair election. There is a dynamic that did occur in the last cycle that was new, which was a straight party ticket poll with basically you fill in a bubble, you vote. I sat up here, the early voting going on, and had people from different communities. I sat next to, and I probably should have said something to the clerk, but I didn't, a young man explaining to his grandma, here, fill out this bubble, grandma, which basically is illegal as all get out. But he's telling grandma, vote this way. And that happened often with the community. Now, did it cost me my job? No.
Anne Marie?
I'm sorry, could you say the question again?
It is a long one, so it actually is multi-part. What are your concerns about the fairness of the November election? What do you think can be done to minimize the disruption of those who attempt to create chaos by claiming that the election results are fraudulent, regardless of evidence to the contrary?
So Michael Seegers, Clerk Michael Seegers, is probably the best clerk in Michigan, I will say that. He's an elected official, he answers to the residents, he's a third vice president of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. I know that people call him all the time. If anyone's ever worked an election, it's infallible in Canton. I encourage anybody who has any doubts about an election to work an election, work that 12-hour shift, and you can really see how it works. I've heard people say that to me often. In terms of chaos, I think Canton's elections ran very well. In terms of other places, I don't know. I mean, of course, you hear stories, but I know that I've been assured with the League of Women Voters, who I've been a part of for 30 years, I know that as league members, we were at election sites before, taking exit polls. We don't do that so much anymore, but I know the league members are poll watchers. I feel very secure in our elections. I feel bad that people that don't, but if anyone has any doubts about our election sanctity, please go to it. When you were also there in a site like Detroit, a major site where a lot of our league members went and even some of our clerks went, there you have watchers. You have election inspectors and watchers, and I just think I just think that the election system we have in this country is the best in the world.
Thank you. I have one last question. I've read the questions that we've received prior to, and then the cards you've written. So I have one last question. So if anyone perhaps maybe has another question they'd like to write out, please feel free and we'll get them from you. But we'll start this one with Anne Marie. How would you justify creating a new position in your administration?
Well, you always get what you pay for, but you don't get what you don't pay for. And I think that when I came into this place, I think that Canton Township was underfunded. There was a surplus there, and the employees were to the bone. We brought in a company called Roftelis. It's an organizational assessment company that worked with various municipalities. They came in and they did a 4-month analysis of Canton Township, and actually their analysis is online. So I didn't want to listen to what anybody else said, what opinions were, what you could or couldn't do. But this organizational analysis basically said Canton Township, with a population of almost 100,000, is operating like you have a population of 70,000. You aren't providing the services that the residents deserve, and it's important that you make these organizational changes. So we took that to heart. We didn't do 100% of what they asked, but we did a lot of it. And I think that the proof is in the pudding. With what we did, we have exponentially provided additional services. We've increased public safety. We brought, again, 37.7 million more reasons as to why Canton is operating more efficiently than it ever has. We've had economic development more than has happened in 20 years, more than when Tom Yack envisioned Cherry Hill Village. I mean, I've sat down at lunch with Tom Yack, and I love sitting with lunch because he talks about how things happen and how they were put together. And just working with him, we looked at the Village Art Factory. It was stagnant for how many years? Now it's burgeoning. We have people calling, they want to go in there. People want to move in there. The house values are skyrocketing. That's our downtown area. So I think that bringing in this organization, and we've expanded. I took economic development from a part-time job that a communications person got to when she could, and it's now a full-time position. It's a full-time priority for this community. I made sure that economic development was not just words for me. I did what we had to do. I did what Roth Tellis recommended, and we have seen the proof. Again, 37.7 million times.
Pat?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes.
As we're near the end, eh?
Yes. How would you justify a new position in your administration? Creating a new position in your administration?
Well, as a former wildly successful business owner, they create themselves. If there's a need, it'll be filled. I believe that the current administration or the current elected board has added many new employees that were, I don't think, necessary. And to that end, I will learn, if I'm sitting in the seat, what is and is not necessary to perform the functions of the basic services of local government and get rid of anything that's related to social engineering.
Okay, we'll start this one. We have another question. What would you do to keep our younger generations here in Canton?
As a real estate guy, they're coming. They love Canton, and they're going to continue to come. We are a bedroom community where people come to enjoy family and recreation. There's a couple nice restaurants and bars. There'll be further economic development that will occur along Michigan Avenue. There will be new things coming into Ford Road. And Cherry Hill Village is another area that the business community will be making the investments to attract the clientele they would prefer to have. So again, as a realtor, I know it's not elderly couples or individuals moving into Canton Township, it's young, new families. My neighborhood is being converted very quickly where we're the old folks in the neighborhood. The kids are coming and it's a beautiful thing.
Anne Marie,
Could you say the question again?
what would you do to keep our younger generations here in Canton?
So Michigan is one of the top 3 brain states in the country. Our young people graduate from college and they go elsewhere to get jobs. That's what the last census showed. That is why I've been working with communities along Michigan Avenue, the second oldest road in Michigan, to create jobs to keep our people here. So right now we've created a group called Michigan Avenue Innovation Network. We are working with the University of Michigan, both in Dearborn and in Ann Arbor, to create such an infrastructure so that our young people have jobs to stay to. So they don't go to the Californias, they don't go to the East Coast, they stay here. Because as Pat said, we're getting older, we need young people here. Also, housing in Canton is expensive. So how do we support that? How do we keep people here? How do we have our young people stay here, not live in our basements or live in towns further away? So that is one of the goals of our board right now, and that is what we are working on. If we don't take care of what is happening right now, it's going to be too expensive in the future. We can't just say we're a bedroom community. We have to actively work to keep jobs here. We have to actively work for affordable housing. We have to actively work to keep our residents here and keep our children here, because I know just from personal experience, there are a lot of boomerang people that come and go away and come back, but there are a lot that don't, just because Michigan is a top brain state. We have to work. We have to be we have to do this. We have to purposely move towards this.
Thank you. That does conclude the questions that I've had. I'll give one more call here to see if anyone was finishing writing one up. If not, we'll move to closing statements.
There were questions that we didn't pass up that could only be asked of one candidate, so there are a couple of questions that did not get asked.
Okay. So we'll move to closing statements. Pat, we'll start with you in closing statements.
I believe that my professional and community and regional experiences, which include everything that Anne Marie had mentioned, with the exception, the only difference we really had was SEMCOG. She's on the executive committee. I was the chairperson for the transportation committee, which is the largest SEMCOG group. while I was there, and every other organization where Anne Marie was the vice chair of, and maybe even the chair of a few of them, I was the chairperson for every one of them. So in terms of the broadest experiences and understanding of finances, I believe I am the best candidate and would love to have you vote for me. Thank you.
Anne Marie?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters in Northwest Wayne County for having this. Also, thank you to the League members from other communities. And thank you for all of you who are coming here and taking an active part in your voting. 4 years ago, I ran for Township Supervisor to restore strength, accountability, transparency, and integrity. I was elected by Canton voters to bring change to the community. I want you to consider what we've done in 4 short years together. 4 years ago, Canton was stagnant. Police and firefighters were leaving the force due to low wages and benefits, putting our homes and businesses in jeopardy. Millions of dollars in local and state taxes were going unclaimed to repair critical infrastructure and invest in programs and aspirational projects for our future. Cybersecurity threats were arising, especially targeting government. And our seniors, youth, and families were being ignored. Since 21, I've worked with our local, state, and federal partners to bring back a record, again, $37.7 million in tax dollars back to Canton Township. It's easy to say that was my idea, but I am action. I do it. I do not just say that was my idea. That's not fair. We've come through a global pandemic together, flooding, tornado, threat of a wastewater treatment facility to the north of us, radioactive waste to the south of us. But we've also come through increased residential programming, more economic development in over 20 years since Tom Yak was here, as well as $37.7 million in projects already mentioned. I mean, we're improving the summit. We're going to expand 10,600 square feet. We're growing Canton's thriving therapeutic recreation program. We're supporting youth and families to renovate Old Township Hall into the Canton Youth Center. We're putting bridges where pedestrians can walk across versus on a 2-lane road. The previous administration didn't have plans for these community assets, much less a vision to renovate them. I'm asking for your vote to keep Canton moving forward together. We can't go back to stagnant leadership of 4 years ago. As supervisor, I will keep Canton moving forward by investing in our community's most valuable assets, you, the residents.
Thank you. We thank the Canton Township Supervisor candidates for their willingness to serve the public and to the audience for such thoughtful questions. We thank the Township of Canton Township for allowing us to use this venue for the forum tonight. Our forum has been videotaped and can be soon viewed on our website, lwvnorthwestwayne.org, and on our YouTube channel. Besides considering the candidates featured in tonight's forum, we urge voters to review the responses of the candidates at the League's nonpartisan online voter guide available at vote411.org. Print copies of the guide will be available at the Canton Library in the first week of October. Please note that ownership of the recording or transcript resides with the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. The candidates or their supporters may not use portions of the forum or any audio clips, video clips, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes without the written permission of the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed nor opposed by the League of Women Voters, and also the League does not certify any candidates' responses to the questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared during this forum. Lastly, Election Day is November 5th, as Carrie said earlier. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you are not registered to vote, you can do so up through and including Election Day. Within 14 days of the election, registration must be done at the office of your township clerk. After becoming a registered voter, you must complete and return an absentee ballot application to your township clerk before an absentee ballot can be mailed to you, unless you're already on the permanent absentee list. All registered voters can vote early by absentee ballot or at an early voting site. And here in Canton, from October 21st through November 3rd, you may vote early at either of the following Canton Township early voting sites, from 8:30 to 4:30. The sites are Summit on the Park and the Village Art Factory. And Summit on the Park will be open late for early voting on the following dates: October 21st, November 1st, November 2nd, and November 3rd. We urge you all to be participants in our democracy by making educated choices in the election. This concludes our forum for this evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, candidates.